Alison of Dreamweaver Designs, and today on Thinking Outside the Box, I'm going to show you how I created these faux, what I like to call faux carved stone pendants and earrings created with polymer clay. They are really simple to make and really look outstanding when you're done. So what I'm going to do, and I will show you how I created these pair of earrings too. So what I'm going to do is I am going to split this up in this video of the three different designs here. And each one will have its own little tutorial within this video. So we'll start with the butterfly, then the earrings, and then finally the sun pendant. So I'm going to go ahead and set up, and I'll be back. Before we get started with the butterfly here, which is this mold from Zuri Designs, I just wanted to show you some of the molds that I have in my stash from Zuri Designs that you can do the same exact technique with. Only showing you these because I'm super excited about them and they're really cool. This is the Rising Phoenix mold, and all of these are just amazing detail. So I just want to quickly go through the ones that that I have. This is the Dragon Fire Breather. This is Swan Dreams. This is Lexus, which is a horse head. Very cool. Then there's a flamingo. And look at the beautiful flowers in that. Here's an owl. And the detail on this is absolutely stunning. And if you're into hummingbirds, there's this one here, which is absolutely gorgeous. And the peacock splendor. So I just wanted to quickly share that with you. They have tons of molds on their site, and in August we'll be receiving even more molds that will be available to purchase, and they're going to be incredible. So I just wanted to share that with you. So now I am going to set up, and we're going to go ahead and start with this gorgeous butterfly. All right, so what I have found is that Sculpey Soufflé is the best clay to use for this technique. And the reason being is it's very easy to use in these molds because it's a softer clay than Premo. And it also has a bit of texture to it. So, and it's more matte after you cure it. Whereas like Premo is very shiny and smooth, and Soufflé is matte and has a bit of texture. So when we do our step to make it look like stone, you're going to see that that texture is going to aid in that. So the very first thing that we want to do is we want to pack our mold. And I'm using this bottom one here, and as you can see, all the detail of the flowers. So I'm going to zoom you in just a little more, and we'll go ahead and start the process of packing this. And I think for the first thing I'm going to do is just lay some clay on top of the mold, like so, and just push it in. Oops. Okay, it'll go right back in there. And this is a little time consuming to pack these molds, but you want to make sure that you know, that you take your time, because you want your finished piece to look beautiful. And I do actually have a tutorial on how I do this with these molds, and I'll link that in the description of this video. Also, anything that I've used in these videos, there will be a link below the video for all the links to the products. So now I'm just going to go ahead and start packing my mold. And I'm kind of doing it in the shape of each area. And, you know, once you've used this mold a few times, you'll know approximately how much clay you're going to need to do this. And I didn't mention this in the beginning. Normally, I have a layout of all the supplies needed, but I'm going to go over the supplies as I create each project. And like I said, there will be links below this video for where you can find them. So now I'll just put a bit in the middle. And I think we'll pack a little more up in this corner here. So now you're just going to kind of push down, because you want to get that lower layer down into every nook and cranny of the mold. And then I also kind of tear this away and add it where needed. And we can always shave if we have too much clay. We can always shave the top off. And now I'm just going to kind of fold in all the areas that are overhanging. Because with this method, there will not be anything that you will need to sand off. You will have nice, clean edges. And I'm going to make sure and push everything up to the edges. And now I'm just going to roll over it with my roller to flatten it and even it. And that's also helping to push the clay down into the mold. So now I'm going to get out my clay blade and start shaving away the excess clay. And you're just doing this on the very top. You don't want to gouge your mold, so you're just running your blade just over the very top. And getting a nice smooth back. Smooth and even. And I'm going to go around my edges again. Make sure that nothing is overlapping, like there. And I'm just lightly taking my finger and pulling away. So it'll grab anything that is overhanging, like right there. And I'll go over it again with my roller to smooth it out. And then again, check my edges. Now we are going to be sanding a little on these edges, but not because we have overlapping clay, but because I like to make it look more like stone and give it rounded edges. And we will do that after the clay is cured. All right, that looks pretty darn good. Now I'm just kind of getting rid of my fingerprints that are on the back. And making it, doesn't have to be super smooth because this is going to be faux stone. So a little bit of texture is nice to have in your piece. But I am making sure that my edges are where they're supposed to be. And making it fairly flat on the back because, you know, you may want to use this in a collage, or you can make a decorated journal cover, boxes. You know, there's so many things that you can use these on. Garden decorations, wall decorations, add them to tiles, bathroom decorations, just all sorts of uses. You just use your imagination and can come up with just about anything. So the next step is we are going to bake this in the oven, and you can see that it's fairly flat on the back. I am going to bake this in my oven at 275 for 60 minutes, and I'll be back. All right, our mold is out of the oven and it is fully cooled. So we're going to go ahead and demold it. And as you can see, it comes out of the mold perfectly. These molds are awesome. You don't really need to add anything with your polymer clay to make it not stick. They are non-stick molds. So here is our piece. And as you can see, it has picked up all the detail. There are no cracks or anything. So this souffle is really great to use in these molds. You don't, as long as you push it in there good enough, you can go ahead and bake it in there and not worry about not picking up all your detail or having cracks. So our next step is you want to take a nail file, and what I like to do is round out this sharp edge on the back because I want it to look more like stone. So I'm just going to take my file and just go across all the edges so that I'm slightly rounding them. And I will do that all the way around, and you can even get into the little detailed areas. This would be a good time to wear a mask so you don't get the polymer clay dust in your lungs, and we all have masks. So you can use one of those to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of it up off camera, and I'll be back. All right, so now that all of my edges are a little more rounded, they're not that sharp edge that was on the back, we're going to go ahead and start our effect. And to do that, we are going to use Amsterdam Standard Series acrylic. And this, you can use any acrylic, and I've tried it with others, but nothing came out as good as using this particular product. These are just really good paints. This is a big tube. I think it's 120 milliliters. And I got this on sale at Blick Arts or dickblick.com. And right now they're on sale for about $5 a tube, which is a really good deal for these. These are a little more advanced than your El Cheapo craft paints that you can get at like Walmart or Michael's in the, little bottles. It's just a much better acrylic. And I like to use this makeup brush from e.l.f. And this is an eye crease brush. And you can get them for $2 at Target. You can go on to elfcosmetics.com and order them directly from them, and they are $2 a piece. The bristles do not fall out. I have had this brush, well, this is a newer one, but I've got another one that I also use that I've had for over a year, and I have not noticed any bristles coming out. So you're going to want a rounded brush like this to do this effects because you're going to be pouncing. And you are going to need a wet cloth or a baby wipe. And you are going to need a piece of paper towel. And let me get a dry one. That one is wet. All right, let me get that mold out of the way and those. All right, so I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit, and I am going to take just a little bit of the acrylic and put it on my work mat, which is a silicone work mat. And you don't need a lot to start. And you're going to be using your brush dry. Let me just get these specks of clay out of here from sanding. You are going to do this with a dry brush. So all you're going to do is, let me make sure that I'm in shot here. All you're going to do is take your brush, pounce it in your paint a little bit, and I like to get some of it off, and you are just going to pounce it on there, getting in all of the little cracks. You're not going to put the paint on heavy, you're just doing a light coat. And getting down in all the cracks. And this paint dries fairly quickly. Then you're going to take your dry paper towel and you're simply going to wipe. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And I think I'm going to need to put some more paint out. And take your paper towel and lightly wipe. And now I'm going to go ahead and get my back and my edges. And you see I'm just pouncing. And taking my dry paper towel and wiping. And now we'll get our edges. And take my paper towel and go along the edges. So in some spots that are recessed, it's leaving the white, and in the other, it's actually leaving your black polymer clay gray. And if you don't like an area, you can just go over it again until you like it. So I'm going to get the rest of my edges. And if you need to get in a spot that you feel is too white, you just maneuver your paper towel in there. And like down in there, I didn't really get very good. So go over that again. Put a little more on there. Get down in that crevice. So just go along your edge and see if it's how you like it. And on the back, I think I'll add a little more to the edges on the back. And you don't really need to do the back if you're not, you know, if it's not going to be seen. All right, so now I am going to take my baby wipe and I'm just going to kind of dab it onto the areas that are dried, because I want to get just a little more of this paint off. And I'm going to go over areas that I feel, you know, might have too much paint on them. You don't want to rub real hard because you will definitely take this paint off because it is a water-based paint. And even when dry, it is a water-based paint. So I'm going to show you how we're going to finish this off with that matte look to protect the paint. So you just keep doing this until you're to a point that you're happy with it by adding paint or taking away paint. And that's how it looks. On camera, that looks a little bit darker, but it is very gray looking. And I've got all my edges. And I'm happy with the back. So you're going to go ahead and let this dry for a half hour. And once this is dry, I will be back to show you how we are going to protect this and leave it looking exactly like it is now. So I'll be back when this is fully dry. All right, first off, I upgraded my UV lamp to an LED UV lamp. And I will have a link for this if you're interested in the description below this video. I just found that this being LED and being 54 watts instead of the 36 that I usually use, it cures my items a lot quicker. And the nice thing about this is it has a detachable bottom that has magnets. So I usually just take that off. And the reason we're going to be using that is we want a matte finish on our piece. And you could use, Golden has a matte varnish, and you could use that also. But I have found a UV gel polish that is matte. And normally I say don't finish off your pieces with UV gel polish. But I got this polish about 4 months ago, and I put a very light coat onto polymer clay, and it's been sitting since then. And I have found that it does not scratch off. It got wet, didn't hurt it. So I'm going to say that in the 4 months that I experimented with it, I have not had any problems. And that particular UV polish is this, and I will have a link to it in the description below this video, just like I have all my products that I can find if they haven't gone, you know, where they don't sell them anymore. This is a matte top coat. This, once applied to this and cured, it will still look like this, exactly like this. So let me show you. This is really cool. I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in a little more so that we can get really close. And I'm going to put my lamp over here. And the best is to show you the back first. You are going to apply just a very light layer of the UV polish onto your piece. So I'm just going to paint it on there, and I'm doing a very light coat and spreading it around. Making sure I get all the way up to the edge. And if you notice, it is not taking the paint off, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to do this side also. Making sure I get all the way to the edge. You want the whole back part coated. So now I'm going to actually go around the edge and make sure I've gotten every part covered. And there's really not a bad odor to this either, which is nice. I know even some UV polishes put off a pretty nasty odor, and this one does not. So I'm gonna bring this up and show you how shiny that is. And you can see brush marks. But I'm telling you, when I put this under the lamp, it is gonna be just as matte as it was when it went in there. So we're gonna go ahead and slide it under there. I'm gonna push the timer for 90 seconds. And I like to do 2 cures at 90 seconds. And that's plenty to cure it completely. And it's actually kind of fun to, I know you're not supposed to look into the lamp, and when I do, I usually throw on a pair of sunglasses, but it's fun to watch it go from shiny to matte, and it takes like literally seconds to do that. So I'm gonna pull it out real quick. I wanna let it go for 2 at 90 seconds, but I wanna show you, look at that. It's matte again. So I'm gonna do the 2 at 90 seconds off camera and I'll be back. Backside is now fully cured. So we're gonna get our sides. And go ahead and get your polish out. And you want, for the sides, you don't wanna glob it on, so you're gonna brush, you know, most of that polish off on the edge of the bottle. And just paint the sides all the way around, making sure that you don't miss any area. You want to get down into the crevices because you don't want any of that finish to come off. You know, this being a decorative piece that will be used on a journal or a box or, you know, whatever, you don't need to be that concerned about it because it's probably not, I mean, it's not going to get wet and it's not going to get worn. It's not going to be brushing up against clothes or, you know, anything like that. So you could probably even get away with not doing this step for this one. But I'm doing it to show you. And you're just getting down in all the edges, all the way around. And you're locking in that effect that you put on there with the paint. And this is a really nice brush too on this gel polish. Sometimes you get chintzy brushes, but this is a nice one. All right, so put that off to the side. My sides are all done, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it under my lamp. And now cure it, and I'll be back. Are completely matte again and fully protected. And now we're gonna get the top. And I like to start on the side with the most detail because I want to make sure to get it down into those recessed areas. Move this over here. So you're just getting it down in all the recesses as well as hitting the tops. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this under the lamp and let it cure for a little bit so I can handle it and do the other side. And it doesn't take long, where you'll be able to touch it, and then off camera I'll cure it for the 2 buttons at 90 seconds. So see, it is completely matte again. So let's go ahead and get the other side. And I will put this under for 90 seconds and then again for another 90, and I'll be back. This is now fully cured and protected and still matte. And here's both of the butterflies. This is the first one I made, and this is the one I made with you guys. So these would be really fun to have like out in a garden, and if you're gonna put them in the garden, you definitely want to put the protective coating. If they get wet, that paint won't wash away. So there you have it. You can put them on journals, you know, whatever your imagination comes up with. So next up in this tutorial are the sun earrings. Okay, here are our earrings, and the supplies that you're going to need for the first step, get that in camera shot, is Soufflé by Sculpey. And like I said in the previous step, this I have found is the best clay to use for this effect. I'm also going to be using Premo, and this is kind of a package that's almost gone, but this was a 1 pound package. I'm also going to be using Premo in this one. And to get the texture, I used this stamp from Deep Red, and I will have links to everything below the video. This is an excellent stamp for clay. And this is a cutter set from the Heart Supplies, which is formerly known as RJ Crafts. And I will be using this size cutter from this set. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and I will be back. This is my souffle, and as you can see, it has a very matte sheen to it. And this is my Premo. And when you put the two side by side, you can see that the Premo is a little shinier. So we're going to start with our souffle. And I'm going to divide it in half. And we are going to be stamping on the souffle. Put this off to the side for a minute. And I like to moisten the stamp just a little bit, and to do that I just use a baby wipe. so it will release a little better from the clay. And all I do is just dab the baby wipe onto the stamp. And we are going to be putting mostly this edge on this side and just place it down onto the stamp. And don't push real hard. Souffle is a soft clay, so you're going to get a good imprint by just, you know, using medium. You know, you don't want to push super hard because you don't want to push the stamp all the way through the clay. But you do want a nice imprint. So there's that one. And now I'm going to wet my stamp again. And we're going to get the other side of the stamp on the other piece. And doing the same thing, medium pressure. And lift up. Now, I did this on a piece of like deli paper or parchment paper so that it's a lot easier to come up than it would be, say, on a tile. So you want to get your piece up, and that's what it looks like imprinted. Do the same for the other side. And on the backs of these, we are going to be using Soufflé and Premo. So I'm going to put these off to the side. And I need to get my another sheet of souffle. I'll be right back. Okay, I forgot to mention that I did condition these and roll them out to a number 4 on my pasta machine. And number 1 is the thickest setting. So I'm just going to trim up this edge. And I am going to cut that in half. And we are going to texture these 2 pieces. These are going to be our back. And this is a texture sheet that I got from the Heart Supplies. You will get a piece this big, which is pretty good, and you can cut it down to whatever sizes you want, but I like to just leave it big, and you know, you can double it up and bend it over. I like to leave it big because if I have a really big piece and I want to texture both sides, I can just fold it over and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and push this down into the clay to give it texture. And you can also run this through your pasta machine. And of course, I'll have a link below the video if you want to get one of these. And I'll show you what the texture looks like. It just gives it a really cool texture on the back. And pull that up. Now what we're going to do, put these over here. I need to cut this in half. This is going to be our filler for the middle. And the reason I do that is because the souffle is a little more expensive than the Premo. And I want this to be a little thicker piece to make it look more like stone. So I'm going to use that as filler. So we'll move those over there. And the first thing you're going to want to do is put this down, texture side down, onto your sheet. Then you're going to add your filler. mean, you could use double thickness of your souffle if you want. You do not have to do this. And because this is raw clay to raw clay, you don't need anything to help it adhere. It'll have no problems doing it. And now I'm going to trim this down just a little. And we are going to take our textured sun and put it on top of here. And start at one end and kind of push it down so there are no air pockets. Now you're going to take your stamp and you're going to figure out where you want to put the design. And the way I had it on my earrings was I had, you want to keep it straight, but I had half of the face in there along with those top waves. So in looking at this, which hopefully my big head is not in this shot, let me pull this up. It looks like I've got both of the waves in there. Bringing it back towards me just so I can look a little better. And now I'm going to go ahead and push the cutter down and make the cut. Then this clay can be pulled away. And you can still separate this to save your souffle, to not mix it with the Premo, which is what I don't want to do. So I got my souffle pile there. And then I want to take off my textured piece. So I mean, it wouldn't hurt to mix the clays, but. All right, now we need to get this piece out of the cutter. And the best way that I do it, or not the best way that I do it, but the way that I do it, is I just take my finger and lightly push as to not smear up the design. And it'll come right out of the cutter. So you have a nice thickness here. And either you can take care of your edges now, or you can do it after bake. You can sand them, which is what I'm gonna do to make them a little more rounded, like we did with the other. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on my tile for baking. And I wanna make sure that it is not distorted. And now we'll do the same thing for the other earring. And I'm gonna flip this over, texture side down, then my filler, which I didn't cut good enough. That's my Premo. Lay that down and put the two together. And now I'm just going to trim this one up a little. And we're going to do this side of the face. So it'll be opposites for your earrings. And start at the bottom. And we'll do the same thing. I'm just going to clean the edges of my cutter with my baby wipe, so we don't get that extra clay in that cut. And then we're gonna go ahead and line this up for the other half of the face. And make sure the wave is in it. I'm just gonna pull it towards me for a second, just so I've definitely got it lined up. All right. And now just push your cutter down. And you can pull this extra clay up. Go ahead and release it from the cutter very carefully. I'm just lightly pushing and it comes right out. And we'll put this on the tile, making sure that it's even. And then you have your two sides, your two faces to the sun. And that's a pretty good thickness, just making sure that it's flat all the way around. You could bake it on a piece of card, but because we put that texture back there, it'll be fine. So you're gonna go ahead and put this in the oven for 60 minutes at 275 degrees. And once I do that, I'll be back. So I almost forgot to show you how I created the beads at the top of the earrings. And what I did was I rolled out some souffle on a number 4, and I just took a cutter that I had sitting on my table because I want my beads to be uniform. And I am going to cut out 2 shapes for the smaller beads. And then I am going to fold this in half so it's double. And it's not going to be long enough, so let me run that through my pasta machine. And I doubled it over, and now I'm going to cut out 2 of these for the 2 larger beads. And take your smaller ones, and you're going to roll these into balls. And they don't have to be perfectly round because I'm going for an organic look. If you want them perfectly round, you can make them perfectly round. But to me, if they're not, it's no big deal. They are supposed to be stone. So I don't know that you'd be able to get a piece of stone perfectly round. All right, so now I am going to take that same texture we used on the back of the earrings, and I am just going to roll these around in it very lightly. We're giving it just a little bit of texture for that paint that we use. And do that with all of them. I'm just doing it very, very lightly. Then I am going to put them on one of these bead hole makers. I'm sure there's a better name for it. But one side is very pointy and one side is blunt. And I'm gonna center it the best that I can, and if it's not absolutely perfect, that will be okay, because again, these are going to be very organic. Slide that down and go ahead and put our next one on. slide it down. And then our little ones. And last but not least, the next little one. And one more time, we are going to put this through the texture very, very softly as to not distort the shape, but it will definitely give it texture. And you can see the little bit of texture on there. Then I go ahead and put this on a bead rack. You can also make that out of cardboard. I know that I won't be able to have a link for this exact one because it is no longer made, but I will post a link for one similar. Go ahead and put that in with your earrings in the oven, and the earrings are being baked at 275 for 60 minutes. So you'll just put those in with that. All right, so our earrings are out of the oven and they are fully cooled. I'm gonna go ahead and release them from the tile. And this is where I'm going to sand just this back edge a little bit to make it a little more rounded. And I'm just using a nail file and taking it just along the back edge until it is more rounded and you've got that sharp, meaning not sharp to cut you, but a sharp edge. So I'm kind of doing it at an angle. And I'm going to do it all the way around on both earrings, and edges are more rounded. And another thing I meant to mention, the reason I use the Premo in the middle as a filler is also the souffle is a very soft and flexible clay once baked, which, you know, to make bracelets and everything, that's perfect. You're not going to get cracking. But for the earrings, I wanted, you know, I need the souffle for the effect, but putting the Premo in the middle makes it a little less flexible. So that's why I did that. So now we're going to go on to the next effect where we are going to get the faux carved stone look. And I'm going to be using this brush, which is an e.l.f. brush. It is a, well, I lost my, oh, here it is. This is a eye crease brush by e.l.f. You can get them for $2 at Target or elfcosmetics.com, and I'll have a link to those in the description below this video. And this is a matte paint. This is the titanium white in the Amsterdam, and it's in the standard series. This is the only paint that I found that gives the best effect. You can try other cheap craft paints and, you know, you can get kind of the look, but this is a heavy body acrylic and it really does a great job. I've tried others and I was most pleased with this. So you're going to need that, and you're going to need a baby wipe and a paper towel for the next step. So I'm going to zoom you in just a little, and to save time, this video is getting quite long. I am going to demonstrate on one earring and then I'll do the other off camera. So the first thing you're going to do is put some of the paint down on a work surface. And I have here a silicone mat that I use. So I'll put a little bit down. And this is a dry brush. We don't want to use a wet brush for this. You're going to pounce your brush in the paint. And we'll start with the back. And you're just going to pounce it on there. Just like we did with the first one. And you're not putting a lot on your brush. just enough to get a light coverage. And then you're going to take your paper towel and you're just going to wipe some of it off. And don't worry about it being absolutely perfect the first time, because we are going to do another step later to even all that out. And you can always add more paint if you wish. Now we're going to do the edges. And just lightly wipe that off. Get the other edge. Slightly wiping. And the last edge. And slightly wipe that off. And now we'll do the top. And you want to make sure to get it down into the grooves, into the recessed areas, because that's mainly where you want the most of this paint to stay. So it'll bring out the detail of your stamp. And I'm just going to wipe some of that off and go ahead and get the other. And we're going to leave it just like this for now because we have another step to do to it. I'm going to do the other earring off camera and I'll be right back. All right, so now we're going to take the back of the earring and we want to get some of the white off, but not all of it. We want to make it look a little more realistic. And in doing that, I'm just taking the baby wipe and just kind of pouncing it onto the back, and it will remove some of that white. And I'm gonna leave my edges alone because I'm pretty happy with them. Maybe just touch this edge a little. But I don't want to take too much of the paint off, so I'm just touching it a little bit. And now we're going to do the top. And I'm just going to dab it on there and just lightly wipe. And I'm happy with that. I do want to get some of the detail in the eye. So I'm only going to hit that with just a little bit of the baby wipe inside. And then touch it with the paper towel. And then that way, we've got more detail to the eye. And we're going to do the same with this one. And you just do this till you're happy with it. And make it a little more like the other one. All right, and I'm just going to touch the edges. And now go over the top. So I'm just dabbing the baby wipe on there and then rubbing it with the towel. And again, I want to get that little bit of detail within the eye. So I'm going to rub around the inside with the baby wipe and then it'll pull that detail out on the eye. And I think I'm going to redo that one just in the eye portion because I lost some of the detail. So I'm just going to put a little bit of paint on my brush, put it in there, wipe, and then go in there with the baby wipe and dab until I get that detail to come out. There, that's a lot better and looks more like the other. And I lost some of my white up here, so I'm just gonna dab that again and then wipe. And you just keep, you know, if it's something you're not happy with, you can keep going over it until we hit that last step. Once we're on that last step, you won't be able to do it. So I'm just gonna do this one more time. And now I'm gonna let these set and dry, and we'll go ahead and get the beads and do the same with them, and I'll be back. All right, so while these are drying, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I put the holes in them. And what I do is I take this, turn it over, and it's a little more than an inch. It hangs out just a little bit on each side, but that's fine. That line right there is going to give me my center. So I'm going to go ahead and mark center right there and do the same with the other bead. And then we'll go ahead and drill our hole. So it hangs out just a little bit over the 1 inch mark, and then that's our center. And go ahead and mark with a Sharpie where I'm going to drill the hole. Then I am going to take this was a piece of styrofoam that came in some package that I ordered. So I like to drill on that. So I'm going to go ahead and take that, get my Dremel out, and to be honest, I'm not sure of the drill bit size on here, but it is a very fine one. If I can find a link to it, I'll post it. So I'm just going to go ahead and, let's see, that one's a little higher. So I'm just going to bring this up just a little bit. And I'm go ahead and place it on there and go ahead and drill my hole. And I'm going to put it back in. And now I'm just going to kind of even the hole out so I have a nice, perfect hole. And I'll go ahead and do that to the other one, and then I'll be back with the beads. All right, so here are the beads, and they are now fully cured. So we're going to do the same exact thing with the beads. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this out, just a teeny amount. And we're going to go ahead, pounce it in there, and pounce it all over the beads. And you want to make sure to get the underside and the top side of the beads. Then you take your paper towel and you just simply wipe and then you can take it off and hit it with your baby wipe to get a little more paint off of it. Hit it with your paper towel. And you do this as much or as little as you want. If you feel like you've taken too much off, just hit it again with the paint and then the paper towel. So I'm going to do the rest of them off camera, and then when I come back we will put the components together and we will have a pair of earrings. Actually, that's not true. We have one more step to do before we can put the components together. Right. So the next step is a UV lamp, and this is a 54-watt LED UV lamp from Melody Susie. And I am going to be using a matte top coat UV nail gel. And like I said previously, I never suggested using the UV gel to top coat your pieces. The shiny, I think, just doesn't hold up. I have a piece of polymer clay that I put this on about 4 months ago when I got it, and the piece is holding up strong. It won't scratch off. It's not, you know, when it gets wet, it doesn't hurt it. So this is my new go-to. You could also use, Golden has a matte varnish that works wonderfully on polymer clay. If you've got that in your arsenal, go ahead and use that. That'll work just as good. But this is just a really quick and easy way to do it. So I am going to show you how it'll go from shiny to matte. And we'll start with the back of this earring. And I'm just putting on a thin coat, making sure I get all the way to the edges so that every bit of that paint is protected. And going over your hole is not a problem. It's not going to clog it up. It's not going to hurt it. So I've got all the edges done, and I want to show you how shiny this is. But when I take it out from the UV lamp, it's going to be just as matte as it was before I put that UV polish on. These are, and I put it under the UV lamp for 90 seconds, and I do that twice. And these are the beads that I finished with the paint. They almost look like blueberries. It's kind of cool. And I'm going to take this out and show you it is just as matte as it was before I put it in. So I'm going to go ahead and get the sides, and I'll be back. All right, so the sides and the back are done, and I'll go ahead and do the front of this one, and then I'll finish the other one off camera. You want to make sure when you're doing the front that you get down in the grooves. So I like to hit those first to make sure that I've gotten down in there. Because you want that paint to also be protected. These are going to be earrings. You know, they may rub up against clothing. They may get wet. You just don't know. So I'm getting down into all of the grooves. And now I'm going to go ahead and go across the top to get the rest of it. Go ahead and slide this under our lamp. Hit it for 90 seconds. And how I do the beads is I just take a toothpick and put it on the end of the toothpick and then just brush it and then move it around under the lamp. And then I can take it off the toothpick and let it cure. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of these, and then we will be back to put our components together, and we'll have a set of earrings. So to finish the earrings off, I'm going to use 8mm split rings. This is just a head pin, and I'm going to snip that piece off. These are 2 ear wires, and then not sure what this tool is called, but both sides are rounded. And these are just some tooth pliers, not for like your teeth, but they have tooth to them on the inside. And these are wire snippers. So the first thing I'm going to do is compose my beads onto my wire. And I want to snip that little piece off at the end, and it went right there. Throw that in the garbage. You don't want to step on that. Now I am going to turn, maybe I should zoom in just a little. I am going to turn this in to make a loop. So I've made a loop. Now I'm going to take these pliers and make sure that loop is closed, and then straighten or bend that loop back so this part of the wire is straight again. Then I'm going to take the largest bead and put it onto the wire, which I bent a little up there, but that's fine. And now one of the smaller beads. And go ahead and put that on. Slide it down. And I may need to, I might be able to straighten that out. Now I'm going to snip to about there on the wire, so I have enough to curl back. So I'm just gonna take it there, snip it. Well, I'll have to go searching for that. Make sure these are pushed down, and now you're going to curl this wire down and in, and then I'm going to close that up and make sure that it's straight. I'll assemble one earring and then you'll know how to do the other. So for this part of the earring, I am going to use one of these, and to open these, you are going to do it like, you're not going to pull it open with your pliers. You don't want to open it like that because you'll compromise it. You just want to take it on each side and open it that way. And then we should be able to fit it right onto here. And I like to go through the back in case I scratch it trying to get it on there. And these are kind of thick, so I might have to switch to a larger jump ring to get it through there, but no, it did it. So now I am going to add the bigger bead down onto here, and then we are going to close this up by taking both sides, bringing them together, and if you go back and forth, to the middle, it'll kind of forge it where it'll be stronger there. And then I like to turn my ends in, like where it connected, so that it's on the inside of that hole. So now you have your dangle, and now you just need to put it onto your earring. And that's really super simple. That's going to be the same thing. You want to take where it opens and just pull it to the side, which it was there, just like that. And then this is the front of your earring. So you want to make sure that you're putting the front that way. Slip that little loop right on there and then close that up, making sure that it's shut so you don't lose your earring. And there you go. I'm going to do the other one off camera and I'll be back. And here are the finished earrings. Got the back and the front. These would make a lovely gift. Next up is part 3 of this extremely long tutorial where I will be showing you how I made the sun pendant. All right, again, we are going to be using the Soufflé by Sculpey because it has the best texture to do this effect. So you're going to need that in black. And this is a really old mold back from 2003, designed by Maureen Carlson. And I got this through Amico. This is their Sun Faces mold. I'm not even sure that this mold is still available. And if it's not, I'm really sorry, but hopefully I can find a link to it. You're going to need that and a tile. And I'm going to go ahead and get set up and I'll be right back. I'm going to condition out some clay to make it easier to put into the mold. All right, I've conditioned out some of the souffle, and because these molds cannot go in the oven, at least I don't think they can, I'm afraid to try it. I know that they feel like silicone, but I'm not exactly sure if it is or not. It feels more plasticky than silicone. I am going to just condition the inside of the mold with a little bit of this Easy No Stick Slip Spray from RJ Crafts, which is now from the Heart Supplies. So I'm going to spray a little bit onto a paper towel. You don't want to use a whole lot. And then I'm just going to wipe it around in my mold. And these molds are a little harder to use because the bottoms are not flat. So it makes it kind of a pain to use these, but it's worth it in the end. So I'm just getting a light coating everywhere within the mold, just so it helps release that clay. And now we're going to go ahead and pack our mold. And I am going to lay some of the souffle down like we did with the first mold and just kind of push it in there. And that just gives us a starting point. And now we're just going to tear bits off and place them down in the mold. And you're going to do this all the way around, filling up the mold. Basically to the depth that you want it. Because this particular pendant is going to be done in several steps. because I want to put a backing to it. So we're going to be baking it twice. All right, so now you're just going to push all this down, making sure that you get into every part of that mold. And like I said, this one's a little harder to do because it is, it doesn't have a flat bottom to it. So it just makes it a little awkward. So I'm just taking these and folding them over. That was our excess clay that we had laid down originally. And I'm probably going to have to shave some of this off, which isn't going to be easy on this mold because it is an awkward one. But it can still be done. Just not as easily as the Zuri molds. So I'm just going to go ahead and carefully shave this top layer off and then continue packing this down into the mold. And we can fiddle with the outer portion once we pull it up out of the mold too. But I want to just get it as flat as I can back here. And I'm not concerned with fingerprints because this is all going to be covered. So we don't need to worry about that. All right, so now we are going to demold. And to do that, it should be a little bit easier with the no stick in there. I'm just going to take it from the edges to start and then just carefully pull it away. Trying not to distort the middle, and then go ahead and pull it out. And see, that's what I don't like about these molds. You're going to have to clean this with soap and water because it did leave some clay residue. They're definitely not no stick, and you can't bake in them, so it doesn't make it the easiest to work with. Now, I do have some cracking here, and if I don't want it, I can simply smooth it out with my fingers. But because we are doing this faux carved rock or stone technique, I'm going to leave most of it because I think that looks really cool in it. But other than that, I mean, it came out pretty good. So I'm just going to go around my edges just a little bit, tweak them the way I want them. It's not going to be a perfectly round mold. And if I got any fingerprints while working on it, I can do that. Now I'm just going to lay it out on my tile and tweak it a little more. So that's what it looks like. Now, if you wanted to alter it in any way, you certainly could take some tools and, you know, I'd like to pull this back here a little more. I'm not cutting it, I'm just using the edge of the blade to kind of open up that area a little more. And then you can use the edge of your blade to smooth out, you know, any kind of areas that you're not happy with. Like by the eye, I am going to take that out because it kind of looks like it's crying. It's already a sad face. But I don't want him to look like, or her to look like she's crying. And I do like this crack that's in here. You may not be able to see it on camera. And then I've got another one there. So I'm going to leave those. And that looks good. So I'm going to leave this as is. I'm liking the shape of it. You can, like I said, you can move it around a little. Look at all the clay under my fingernails. And we're going to go ahead and put this in the oven at 275 for 60 minutes. And I will return when it's all cured and cooled. Our piece is out of the oven and it's fully cooled. So we're going to go ahead and take it off of our tile. And as you can see, the back is still very rough and the front looks good. So now what we're going to do is put a backing on this. And I want to add a veil. So I want to add this veil to hang it with. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is I conditioned out some souffle on the number 3 setting on my pasta machine. So I want to texture that first. This is going to be the back. So I'm just going to push down with my texture onto the clay until I'm happy with the way it looks. Okay, and we'll go ahead and pull that up. And this is what the texture looks like. So I'm going to flip texture side down, and I'll zoom you in a little more. And we are going to cut out around the sun. So I'm not pushing that down hard. I just want to cut a circle a little ways out because I kind of want to overlap the clay along the sides to hide the seam. Good grief, I got my hair in there. So I'm gonna cut, I would say, I don't know what that would be, 1/4 of an inch out. If even, no, not even that. A few centimeters out. And we're gonna just cut all the way around. And it doesn't have to be totally perfect, but you want to get it, you know, as even as you can. And you're going to do that all the way around. It's hard for me to do at this angle. Usually have my head right up above the tile so I can see better. But it's pretty good. Okay. Pull the excess clay away. And now we are going to lift the sun up. And I want to put some poly paste. You could also use a little bit of liquid clay, but I like the poly paste. So I'm going to put that on the back so that our back piece will adhere better. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my finger and rub it around on this cured clay. Getting right up to the edge. And I also want to put it on my bale. And I'm going to put a little bit on the front and the back of the bale. Put that there, wipe my hands off. All right, now we're going to take our backing, and we want to line up where we want our bale, and I like to put it right here on that area. But first I want to line up we'll just go ahead and put it on here. Make sure I'm in shot. And then we will lay the sundown onto the clay. And pick everything up. Now you might have to stretch it out a little. If it, you know, has too much, you can always cut some excess off. But we want it to kind of be even all the way around where we can pull that clay up onto the edge. So that's the next step, is patting that edge all the way around. Now we may lose some of our texture, but that's okay, because we can go back in. And then I like to just kind of smooth this out so it's not so harsh against the baked clay. And you're just going to do this all the way around until you're happy with it. Just kind of smooth a little in here. Because what we've done is we've sandwiched our bale in between the two pieces, so you don't see the bale on the back. And now just smoothing my edges out. And now I can go back in with my texture and get the edges again, because I've kind of smoothed them out with my fingers. So I can touch them again with the texture sheet and get that nice texture going in there again. Do it all the way up to your bale on both sides, and you might need to hit the back again. Okay, I am happy with that. So the next thing we're gonna do is I like to put my signature on my pieces. And I have a signature stamp that I got from RJ Crafts, which is now from the Heart Supply. And I'm gonna go ahead and texture this so it matches the back. pull this up, and I'm going to take my initial stamp and just moistened it a little. And my initials are AM. Well, I just cracked, no, I didn't. Yep, I did, I just cracked my stamp. Well, that's not good. I'll have to glue that. Go ahead and push down lightly so you have an imprint. And it's kind of hard to see until we do the final effect, but there's an A and an M there. Now, I want to cut a circle out of this. So you want to take a circle cutter that is as big as your bail, that will cover your bail. And just kind of eyeball it, line it up, and cut that circle out. Thing I like about these cutters is it has a little plunger and it'll pull it right out. So now I have a circle with my initials, and this is raw clay to raw clay, so I don't need anything to adhere it together. And I'm just going to put this over where the bail is, making sure that it's straight, and just push lightly around the edges to adhere it. And that gives a little extra protection for that bail and a perfect way to add your signature to your pieces. So we are going to go ahead and bake this, and you can bake it right there on the tile. The bail is not hitting. And I am going to put this in the oven at 275 for 60 minutes, and then we'll go on to the last two steps. See you in a bit. Our sun is now fully cured. And here's the front and the back. And now we're going to add the effect. And you are going to need a round brush. This is an e.l.f. makeup brush, and it's an eye crease brush. You can find them for $2 at Target. You can also get them at elfcosmetics.com. It is a really good brush. You will not lose bristles on it. It's soft, and as you can see, it's rounded, and it's great for pouncing. This is the paint that I'm going to be using. This is Amsterdam acrylic. I got this bottle or tube for a little over $5 at dickblick.com. It's 120 milliliters, which will last you probably an eternity using it strictly with polymer clay. So it's a great deal. And I have found that this is the best paint to use for this effect. I've tried several other acrylics and did not like the way they came out compared to this. This is a very good quality, high pigment matte paint. You want to be using a matte paint. All right, you're also going to need a baby wipe or a wet towel or damp towel, and a dry paper towel. So I am going to zoom in a little more. I will do the front of the face, and I'll do the sides and the back off camera. So the first thing that I do is just put a little bit of my paint down on my craft mat. This is a silicone craft mat, so it's really easy to clean up. And I'm going to take, you want to do this with a dry brush. Your brush must be dry. And I think I'm zoomed in a little too much. All right, so just pounce a little bit of your paint onto your brush, and you're going to start getting in all the crevices, because that's mainly where we want the paint to stay. And just pounce everywhere, making sure to cover it completely with a very light coat. Get your edges. And if you get a little bit on your bail, that's fine. You can always wipe it off. This is a water-based acrylic. All right, I think I've got it in all the crevices. Now you want to take your dry paper towel and you're just going to wipe over the top. And this paint dries pretty quickly. So the next step is you're going to take your baby wipe and you're just going to dab it on there to add a little bit of moisture. And then take your paper towel and you wipe until you're happy with the outcome. And you just keep doing that. I like to take some of the edge off in here. And like I said, you just keep doing this until you're pleased with how it looks. I like to get in the eyes a little bit to bring out their detail. And a little bit on the lips. Get this eye a little more. And get a little more on the face, so you give it a little more dimension. And if there are any areas that you don't, you feel you've taken too much of the paint off, you can always go back in with your brush and correct those areas until you're happy with them. So I'm going to go ahead and do the edges and the back off camera, and I will be back for the final step. The paint is now fully dry, and I have finished with all the effect that I'm going to do with it, and I'm happy with it. So the next step is we need to protect this paint. And Golden has a matte varnish that you can use. If you've got that in your stash, go ahead and use that. But I have also found, and as I mentioned in part 1, I have found a UV matte coat gel polish, and this is a no wipe polish. Normally, I don't suggest finishing off your pieces with UV gel polish. It just isn't the same as resin. It's not as durable. However, I purchased this about 4 months ago and immediately put some on a test piece of polymer clay because I wanted to see what the durability was and how long it would last. And I'll tell you, a very light coat is all that is needed. And it will seal in, if you're looking for a matte finish, it will seal in any mica powder that you put on your polymer clay, any kind of paint, any kind of surface treatment that you've given your clay. it will seal that in. It does not scratch off. It can get wet. You know, it didn't affect it. It was perfect. It is still looking great after 4 months. So I'm going to say so far, 4 months, it's looking great and it has passed my test. So like I said, this is a no wipe top coat. I have upgraded my UV lamp to a 54 watt LED Melody Susie. It only has 3 settings on it. One is for 30 seconds, one is for 60, and one is for 90. I normally go as many times as I need at 90. It doesn't have that lifetime setting, which is kind of a pain, but I can also kind of understand why they don't do that, because it, you know, it could be a fire hazard, I guess. If it's left on too long, it could get too hot. You know, these are all plastic components. But it does cure my resin a lot faster. Like for this polish, all that I would need is 90 seconds, but I like to go an extra 90. So I'm going to show you how I apply this to the front, and I'll do the sides and the back off camera, but how I apply it to the front to keep this very matte look. Also, if you were to have a shiny polymer clay, like in some spots it's a little shiny but not too bad, it will matte that. It'll take that shine away. Premo is a very shiny clay once baked, and when you put this over it, it will matte that out. So I'm going to go ahead and move this a little, and I'm just going to zoom you in a bit, and I will do a coat just to show you how it goes from looking shiny to matte. And then, like I said, I'll do the rest off camera, and we will end this very long tutorial. If you have watched this in its entirety, God bless you and thank you. I'm very appreciative of all my subscribers, and you guys are just awesome. I really love bringing you, you know, ideas that I get in my head, and, you know, just, I love to share, and I think that's what art should be about. And, you know, I don't make money off of this. I just do it out of the love in my heart for art. So I am applying just a very thin coat to the back of this pendant. And the nice thing is it does have a bail, so you can just hold that when you're applying your finish. You know, and you want to do this to protect the paint. And, you know, it's going to be rubbing against clothing. You know, fingers will be touching it in time. You know, that could all wear off. So you want to do this evenly and get down in any crevices that you have. And as you can see, it's a very thin coat and extremely shiny. But I'm going to go ahead and put this under the lamp just for a few seconds to show you that this shine will turn matte. So I'm going to go ahead and put it under there. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. And I hope that you're all staying safe and well through these trying times. All right. Go ahead and pull it out, and look at that, completely matte and completely protected. So I'm going to go ahead and finish curing this, and I'm going to do my edges and my front, and I'll be back. And here's the sun completely finished, and the back. And adding your initials just gives it that extra touch. And I think that, you know, as an artist, you should mark your work with your initials. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you found it helpful and that it inspired you. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and leave a nice comment. Subscribe to my channel and tap that bell so you get all notifications when I post new tutorials. I really enjoy bringing you ideas that I come up with, ideas that have been used before that I tweak, to my own satisfaction. So until next time, you have a wonderful week. Please, everybody, stay safe and stay healthy. And till next time, bye-bye.